Thank you, Elise.
You're welcome.
Today we'll be talking Spiceworks Agent with Ezra Pagel, our senior software developer on the Agent project. And then we're going to be doing a live Q&A with one of our test engineers, Brandon Southern.
So don't forget to send in your questions using the live chat window. And at the very end of the broadcast, we're going to be selecting one lucky Spice Head who sent the question in and had it read on the air to win a super cool exclusive Spiceworks 6 t-shirt.
And now for a sneak peek of the Agent in action.
Are you frustrated by roving laptops? Many of you have users on the go, and it can be a real pain to keep their devices up to date in your inventory. Seems like they're never connected during a scan. Well, Spiceworks 6.0 is adding an optional agent to solve this pesky problem for you. After a pain-free installation on the laptop, the Spiceworks agent will run a local scan. After the scan, the agent will attempt to phone home and transfer its results back to your central installation. If it cannot connect, the agent will continue to ping your central server on a set schedule until a connection is established. Now you'll be able to easily see all the unwanted software your sales guys are installing, and more. The agent will also give your users easy access to the user portal, ensuring that they submit a ticket instead of calling you. And the best part, it will automatically update, so once you install it, you're good to go. Help us test the agent by installing the Spiceworks 6.0 beta, just not in production, and then letting us know what you think. You can find the download in the 6.0 group in the Spiceworks community.
And this is Ezra. He's going to be talking to us about Spiceworks Agent. Before you do, tell us a little bit about what you do here at Spiceworks.
So I'm a senior software engineer on the platform team, and most recently been working on the remote agent.
Awesome. And before we even talk about Agent, I do have one other question to ask you. You know, Greg Cadwar was sitting here last week, and I asked him all kinds of questions about Spiceworks 6, and I know you guys do CrossFit together. Mm-hmm. So he's not watching, so I want to put you on the spot and ask you who would win in a race, you or Greg Cadwar?
Oh, man, Greg's been training a little bit harder than I have these days, so it's close, but I'm going to give it to Greg.
Diplomatic answer. All right, cool. Now that we have that all cleared up, let's go straight into Spiceworks Agent. So tell us a little bit about what problems it's going to solve for IT pros.
So the remote agent is designed for environments that have laptops and computers that aren't consistently connected to the network. So think remote workers in coffee shops or salespeople on VPN. So if those people's computers aren't connected to the network when Spiceworks scans it, it usually doesn't show up in the network. So the remote agent, you install it on the endpoint, and it's going to perform the same scan, queue up that data, and whenever that laptop is accessible on the network again, it'll push that data up to the central server, and you can manage it in your inventory just like you do any existing Spiceworks managed device.
Cool, that sounds really helpful.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other major features that are part of Agent?
So it's comprised of two different components, a Windows service and a optional tray component. And the tray effectively just takes you to the help desk if you click it, and if you're a local admin, you can do some configuration. The service itself does the majority of the work, which is the same kind of scan data that we come to expect off of a regular Spiceworks central scan, which are things like software licenses, hardware summary info, net stats, disk stats, all the stuff that you'd expect, like events and so on. So we also have a cool feature in auto update. So think about the life cycle of something like an agent. Once you roll it out, you don't want to have to mess with it again every time you update the central server. So we've built in auto update. The agent's intelligent enough to know that if you've upgraded the central server, it needs to auto update itself as well. So it's kind of a zero touch maintenance thing we're doing. And kind of on the same note, you know, if you only have a couple of these endpoints, you might want to roll out one or two of them on a manual installation. But if you've got 200 plus laptops, which I know a lot of our users do based on the community feedback, they're going to want to do bulk deployments, and some of them use group policy, and some of them have some, you know, custom apps, some have something they bought that does mass deployment. Regardless, we've decided to package this up as MSI, expose the properties, and support that kind of bulk deployment scenario rather than just a manual installation thing. And I think that's a real win for the users. It's good.
Cool. So what prompted this feature?
So this feature has been requested for a really long time, and it's something that's been kind of kicked around. And I think there's been multiple kind of tracer bullet R&D style attempts at what this should look like. And I think we finally, you know, have enough experience that we realize how we should do this and pull the trigger and invest it in, you know, first-class architecture. And it's really been a win. It's been good.
Cool. So it sounds like there have been some questions from the community around technical requirements and supported platforms, things like that. Is there anything you can clear up on that front?
So, like the base minimum requirements are, so this is a Windows only for this release and for the foreseeable future for that matter, covers the majority of our OSs. So Windows 2003 SP2, I believe, and XP SP3 min requirements. Basically anything that can run .NET 3.5 SP1. So yeah, that's the technical requirements. And we support 32-bit, 64-bit, and because it's .NET, it's a broad spectrum of OSs.
Great. So what are what sort of high level goes into developing something like the agent? It's a big feature.
Yeah, so you can think of well, just the the test matrix for that. We just talked about supported platforms, but think about the number of OSs and the variations and architectures and so on. That's a big test matrix, and that's a lot of each of the OS variations has their own idiosyncrasies. And if this had been kind of a ground up, greenfield deployment or greenfield project, it would have been an order of magnitude more difficult than it was. And it was a non-trivial project, but we have a lot of in-house expertise and years of experience that we could capitalize on for this agent and build on some of the same code base to make this a faster time to their users can use it faster. And so we've got Brandon who's going to answer questions in a minute. He's done a lot of work hardening up the product and knocking out bugs. We've gotten some really good community feedback. We made some assumptions that didn't validate in the user community. We had we assumed there'd be a lot more VPN use than there is. We had users that didn't want some of the tray components to be optional. So we had some really good feedback early on. And I think that this is the first alpha that Spiceworks has done. So it's been a real positive experience for us to get it out in the field early, get good feedback, have the users tell us what they liked and disliked about it, and iterate on that faster than if we had waited a long time, done more work. And so I think that's been a good experience for us. Hopefully for the users too, we've seen really good adoption, really good feedback from them. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
I'm sure this
absolutely.
is really good information, and really appreciate you fielding the spontaneous CrossFit question. Very good sportsman-like of you.
Make me want to go train hard so I can take on Greg.
I would actually go do it with you, but I'm scared of both you and Greg Cadwar, and I don't think I can run anywhere near as quickly as either one of you. Chris, how about you?
I just keep in mind whenever racing Greg Cadwar, always sweep the leg, Johnny. So we're going to be doing a Q&A session, so please remember to keep sending in your questions via the live chat or Twitter hashtag Spiceworks6. So we're going to talk to Brandon Southern, one of our test engineers who's been on the agent project. Just a real quick overview of what it is you do here besides consume all my MSDN keys.
I like to take up your subnets too. Besides that, I've been working closely with Ezra on the agent, so doing all the testing on it, feedback into the community, making sure that we're out there collecting that feedback and incorporating that back into the product.
Okay. Anything bizarre happened to you today?
Not yet, unless you go all Ron Burgundy on me here.
Well, we're going to go ahead and start our Q&A session. First question comes from C. Guardado. Is there a change to the schedule for the agent? Also, what is the schedule?
I think, so for that one, it sounds like you're referring to the scan interval configuration. So by default, we have a scan interval that the agent will post back to the central server, and that happens every 10 hours. You can change that from the central server, and upon changing that, the agent will actually pick up that new scan interval change. So if you wanted to move it to, say, 30 days, you could do that. The agent will pick that up every 2 minutes and pull that back down, and then the next scan will occur at that time.
Oh, great. Our next question comes from, okay, usernames, people, really. BKCK2K3. Will users be able to interact with the agent, i.e. open the portal or a new ticket?
So that question, that really depends on how you've installed it. So as Ezra mentioned, you can install the agent with or without the tray option, and if you've chosen to install the tray option on your remote devices, you'll have access to open the portal through that.
Does that require any special permissions for the user, or can any limited user open the tray?
So as long as you have the admin level permissions, then you can open up the tray. If you have UAC turned on, you would see the About section in the tray, but that's it. You wouldn't actually have access to the portal.
Okay, so you need to be a local administrator to be able to
Correct.
perform this function. Okay. Next question from BCII. The remote agent connecting via remote ports, do I need to allow ping echo at the firewall?
So you should be allowing the ping to go through there. The agent is going to ping back to the remote, the central server, and that happens on a 2-minute interval.
Are these ICOMPs, TCP ping, UDP ping?
So these are going to be TCP connection coming back in there, and that's how the ICMP packets are going to post back to.
Okay. And our next question from Steven.Delvecchio. How large is the agent and what is the overhead the client sees as far as resources used?
I'd have to go back and look at the specifics on that, but the package for the agent install is only a couple meg, so considerably less than what we see with the Spiceworks install. And the actual data that's being transmitted is really quite minimal in comparison. We've had users that have pushed the agent on approximately, let's say, 200 machines all at the same time from the remote devices back to the central server. We've seen instances where we've had increased server load, but it really depends on the configuration that you have set up. But we expect minimal utilization on your central server when you're using the agent.
Okay, great. And our next one from Ryan, 1432. Can we install it in a silent no system tray?
Yeah, that option is available. So as Ezra mentioned earlier, we do have the option to install with or without the tray, and you can do that through a silent push, or you can do that through a manual installation of the agent.
Okay. And our next one from, oh dear, Lyris Chosen. Is this going to run like the remote installation and scan the network that the agent is on? So I think he's asking, will the agent scan the subnet that the computer that the agent is running on is attached to, or will it just report back information from that local system?
Okay. So the agent's actually only going to report back from that local system. And one thing to note with that is people do have remote collectors out in the field. You cannot point the agent to a remote collector and have the remote collector pass back up to the central server.
So it needs to be connected to the central server?
That's correct.
Okay. Very pertinent question from over there. Will this replace remote collectors?
No. The remote collector is really a Spiceworks installation, so your app and it's thinned down a little bit compared to the central server, but you wouldn't want to expect the remote collector to function like the agent. The agent is created to be put on remote devices that'll check into the central server at periodic times, and it's meant for one machine, not for multiple machines.
Okay. Got a lot of questions this morning. Next one is from JDS1469. With the tray option, are tickets submitted with email support or need a LAN connection?
You know, that one we're still trying to field out right now with some of the way that the ticket system is going to work. We are posting our tickets back to the central server, and there have been a few additional requests in there, so we're still working that area out.
Okay, so short answer would be we don't know?
Don't have a full answer on that yet, no.
Okay. And our last question from Tom Riles. Will it work with remote collection sites? I think we just answered that, where it needs to communicate directly back to the central server.
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. You're right that we did just hit on that with the remote sites. You can't post to a remote site, but we do have an option in the agent installation to specify a site name. So if you choose to do that, that site name information will actually get posted back to the central server. So if you were a user that had multiple sites and you wanted to organize your agents based on a site, you could do that, and you can run reports and things of that nature inside the central server.
All right. Well, that's it for the questions, I believe. Thank you, Brandon, for joining us and giving us that in-depth view into the agent. So now,
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Brandon. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you guys got some good information out of that. Don't forget to follow the Spiceworks 6 group in the community for all the latest information on Spiceworks 6. Following the group is the best way to get updates on what's happening with the beta and to find out how you can get involved in beta testing, which is really the most important thing. It's a really important way to give us feedback about what's in the product, and it helps you make sure that your update after the final release goes out is a piece of cake as well. So it's really important that you go do that. We really appreciate you following the group, and yeah, that's it.
And now time for the drawing for that lucky winner of the Spiceworks 6 t-shirt.
And on the topic of the Spiceworks 6 t-shirt, I just found out that we might actually be able to show what that t-shirt is going to look like. So it's super sweet. As you can see, it hasn't even been printed yet. So we're not going to be able to give it away immediately following this broadcast, but you will be one of the first people to actually be able to wear this shirt. So it's pretty awesome.
You'll get it before I do.
That is correct.
And now the drawing.
Drum roll.
And the lucky winner of the Spiceworks 6 t-shirt is C. Guardado. C. Guardado.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, congratulations, C. Guardado. Hope you enjoy the shirt when you get it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We will be here next week. One thing about next week, we will be broadcasting at 12 noon instead of 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time. We've got a big company meeting that starts at 10, and so we wanted to make sure that we could, have plenty of time to get set up and everything. So next week only, it'll be at 12 noon. Come back here, same channel. You can go to the live stream page to watch it. And that's it from us. I'm Elise.
And I'm Chris.
Thank you. See you next week.